these type of teachers exist. I don't know why these type of people get into teaching, but clearly it is not a love of teaching or children. Hello and welcome to Little Learners. Today we're doing something a little bit different to usual. I'm going to be talking to you about teachers that I have come across either as a student myself or as a teacher with colleagues. I want to make it very clear that I will not be naming any teachers in this video, but I am going to be talking about the worst teachers or the worst examples of teaching that I have come across. So originally I was thinking about making a video about what has kind of informed my practice, what I have learnt from teachers along the way. And I realised that not only have I learnt from my best teachers, I also learnt from my worst teachers, because I learnt from them what kind of a teacher I did not want to be. And that, in a way, is also extremely valuable. Now, I am not going to be talking about these teachers in terms of the type of person they are. I'm not saying that they are always a terrible teacher, but I am going to be talking about experiences that I've had with teachers that were not, in my opinion, the best practice. I am also going to be making, or I may have already made and published, I'm not sure what order I'm doing this in, a video about the best teachers that I've ever had and how to be like them. So this video is more about teachers you do not want to be like, but I am going to be doing a video about teachers you do want to be like and really great examples of wonderful teaching practice. So let's take a trip down memory lane and talk about the worst teachers I have ever had. Before we get started, don't forget to click that like button if you find this video enjoyable, helpful, interesting in any way, as it really helps out the channel. So when I think about the worst teachers I've ever had, and starting off in sort of primary school, there was one teacher who stands out for me. And it's very strange because they ended up being one of my favourite teachers towards the end of the year, but at the beginning of the year, it was a very different story. This teacher, I think, was probably going through something in their personal life, but brought that into the classroom and had an extremely short temper and used that when punishing children. And I don't just mean discipline, I mean really punishing them. I'm trying really hard not to use gender-specific pronouns right now. So if a child was misbehaving, they would tell them to sit underneath the teacher's desk and then tell the rest of the class that they were kicking them under their desk. I don't think they were kicking them, but still. Horrific. I remember one time a child brought in a toy car from home, which obviously they shouldn't have done, and this teacher took the toy car and threw it out of the window. We were on the second floor, and it went into the teacher's car park, so I don't know if that child ever got their toy back. There was also a time when we had a whole class staying in time, so detention for primary school. At lunchtime, we had to sit in a room, the teacher sat at the front, ate their lunch and said, "You're going to sit here while you miss your lunchtime and watch me eat my lunch." So clearly, this was a very extreme case. But what I learnt from that was that punishing children in such a drastic way was certainly not effective. It caused an extreme amount of upset and anxiety in not only me, but all of my classmates, and also was teaching children that it's okay for adults to treat them that way, which is the complete opposite of what we as teachers want children to learn. We want them to know that they have a right to be safe, they have a right for their caregiver, who in that situation is their teacher, to treat them with respect, and to treat them fairly. And so, of course, while this is an extreme case, I felt it was really important to mention because that certainly informed my practice. However, this teacher then I think took a little bit of time off, came back and was like a new person and ended up being a wonderful teacher. So they were clearly a good teacher who had fallen into extremely bad practices and possibly was having some issues in their personal life. It can be difficult not to bring your personal life into the classroom, but it's very important that you don't, because It's nothing to do with the children. Okay, so we kind of started off with a bang there. Let's move on to the next teacher. This is also a funny one because aside from one subject that this teacher taught me, they were the best teacher ever. So this again was in primary school, and they were caring, they were funny, they really did care about how well you did and how to really tailor teaching to all children. Obviously at the time I didn't make such observations, but looking back I can really tell that they were a really caring teacher. However, in some areas they perhaps cared a bit too much, and I was in top set maths, which meant that my teacher in this year group at primary school was also my maths teacher. So we were taught in the same classes for everything, apart from maths where we moved around. And this particular teacher recognised that my class of students were quite gifted at maths. I suppose is gifted the right word? We were fairly good at maths, and so they decided that they would really stretch us and challenge us, which meant that we were given work of GCSE level. Now that sounds insane, I know, and to a degree it kind of was. It was scary. Not only were we given this hard work, but my teacher was extremely strict about it. So we would get this really difficult homework that we'd have to complete for the next day, and if we didn't complete it because we didn't understand it, which in a lot of cases was the reason, some of our parents didn't even understand some of it, then we were sent out of the classroom for the next lesson and told to do it on our own in the foyer and miss then the teaching of the next lesson, which we would need for the next piece of homework. It was like they were a different person during maths lessons, and I was terrified. I developed such bad anxiety about it, and I just felt sick going to school. Sometimes I did vomit on the way to school because I was so anxious, but there was no kind of understanding on my teacher's side of things. There was just this really strict, you will do it, and if you're going to be upset about it, just get out of my classroom. And so for such a young child, for anyone to be honest, for such a young child, that is horrifying. And I know I wasn't the only one. Again, in other areas of teaching, this teacher was amazing. So I don't know why it was the maths side of things that they really changed for. And I definitely never want to be the kind of teacher that makes any child feel that way. I am all for extending high achievers, absolutely. I've talked about that many times on this channel, but not to the detriment of their mental health. I did become very good at maths. Not that I think that was the right way to go about it, and I would rather have been average at maths and have my mental health be a lot healthier than this way round. But anyway, I became very good at maths, and that ended up being a bit of an issue for me later on. So we will get on to that. Going into secondary school, I had some really good teachers and some not really good teachers. And one of my teachers for maths, I think I was in year 8, and I was really bored. Some of my peers from my previous school who were in my top maths set were also in my maths class at this secondary school, and we were so bored because we had learnt so much in primary school and had been doing such advanced maths that when we got to secondary school it was all too easy. So we had this teacher and we would complete the work so quickly because it really wasn't to our level, our ability, and the work just was not differentiated at all. It was everyone was doing the same thing, and even though there were higher achievers, they were not extended. One time the teacher came to us and said, "You really need to stop finishing this so quickly, I don't have enough to give you," which, big old red flag right there. And I said, "Please could we have some simultaneous equations to do? We really enjoy them and we haven't really been able to do them since primary school because they haven't come up in our maths lessons." To which the teacher said, "No, you'll probably have to wait until the end of year 9 or year 10 to start doing simultaneous equations." If a student of mine was really excelling in a particular area and they said that they wanted to challenge themselves more, and there was a part of that subject that they really enjoyed and they were asking for the work, there is absolutely no way I would tell them to wait 2 years to be able to do it. This teacher was also very, I think, nervous around secondary school children, and also didn't have the best behaviour management, which didn't help at all. I don't think they actually liked teaching that age group. Perhaps they would have been better suited to being a university lecturer, but teaching that age group was not for them. So far we have had 2 teachers that really scare children, make them feel anxious and damage their mental health. And we have a teacher who does not extend to their higher achievers. Often, I think, knowing some teachers like this, it can be down to a bit of laziness because they don't want to plan for more. They don't want to differentiate to that level because that means they have to do almost an entirely different lesson plan for that group of children. But that is all part of teaching, and that really did show me that that's not the kind of teacher I want to be. I want to be a teacher who encourages students who are enjoying a subject and are really excelling in a subject. I want to encourage them to challenge themselves even more. So moving on from that, I then had a teacher once who seemed to take everything very personally. They probably had a really good knowledge of drama and theatre, but anytime there was some misbehaviour or something like that, they would take it so personally and almost have this personal vendetta against that student for the rest of the year. And it really damaged the way that they were teaching our class. When you are a teacher, you cannot take things too personally. You just can't, because students misbehave. Students make the wrong choices. It happens. That's part of teaching. And having effective behaviour management, which I have made a video on before, is really important. It's a key part of teaching. And so if you're going to take things personally and not let it go, that's going to damage your mental health as a teacher and also the way that you teach the students. So from that, I definitely learnt that it's important not to take things to heart too much. And there are so many different reasons that students might be misbehaving. And it's important to find out the reason. There's no point in taking it personally and feeling as though it is a personal attack on you, when in actual fact, 99% of the time, there will be a reason and it won't be that. There will be a different reason, and it's important to get to the root cause of that behaviour and help the student through whatever they're going through. Next, we're going to talk about probably the worst teacher I have ever come across. And that sounds so terrible because I've already talked about a teacher who told children to go onto their desk and then would pretend to kick them. So maybe not the worst, but definitely up there for me. This teacher did not care about their students. That is a huge red flag in teaching. We don't go into this profession because we don't like children. What's the point? This teacher was very condescending and quite honestly made me lose the love for a subject I had loved my entire educational career. This was an English teacher. And not only were their lessons quite frustrating because they would constantly go off on a tangent, talk about their own sort of personal life, and I didn't feel like I was getting the education that I needed in a subject that I absolutely loved. One day I went to this teacher and said that I really wanted to achieve an A star in my exam. This was not out of the realm of possibility. I was in top set English and I absolutely loved English and I just wanted to do the best I could in it. And so I said, what can I do to sort of push myself that little bit further to try and aim for that A star in my exam? And the teacher turned to me and said, Amy, some people have it and some people don't, and you just don't. And my world came crumbling down. This subject that I had loved and enjoyed so much since I was really small, a subject that I thought I was going to go on to university to study, a subject that I wanted to teach myself, I was being told that I didn't have it, whatever it was meant to be. And honestly, thinking about it now makes me almost relive that feeling, because I just felt like, what's the point? What is the point then? My teacher doesn't believe in me. What's the point? And I was really, really down about it. And even though I knew that this teacher wasn't a very good teacher, because I have had extremely good teachers in the past to compare them to, I really let it get to me. And I think that most students would. It was only after I spoke to my mum, who was really cross about this, that I realised, no, you know what? I'm going to prove them wrong. And I will be talking about in my Best Teachers Ever video a teacher that really helped me through this period of time and helped me to get my love for English back, go on to study English at university, and actually then go on to do a master's in creative writing. But if it wasn't for that really good teacher, this teacher could have stopped me from doing all of that, just with that one sentence. And from that, I certainly learned I want to be the kind of teacher who, if a student comes to me and says they want to do better and they're asking how they can improve, even if they've got a really long way to go, I want to support them. I want to help them. And, you know, I think it's important to be honest with students if they are looking to achieve something that, you know, is quite far away for them. You need to be honest and say that there is a lot of work ahead of you. This is where you are, this is where you want to be, and this is what we need to do to get there. But then you work with them and you support them as much as you possibly can. Never, ever tell a student that they will never be able to do something. Another teacher similar who I have come across, but not as a student myself, but as a colleague, did something similar. There was a student who was thinking about what they want to do when they leave school, and this student had really struggled a lot with school in general and behaviour, but, you know, they were really trying to think about things that would be good for them. And they decided that they would really like to be a lorry driver, because they like to be on their own, they like to travel, and for lots of different reasons, they decided that this would be a really good career for them. And they were really excited that they'd finally thought of something that appealed to them. And this teacher heard this and said, that's probably a bit aspirational for you. I think you need to think smaller. Can you believe that these type of teachers exist? I don't know why these type of people get into teaching, but clearly it is not a love of teaching or children. So I hope that this video has given you an idea of what kind of teacher you might not want to be like. And as I said before, this is just as important as knowing what kind of a teacher you do want to be. Knowing what you don't want to do and reflecting on your own negative experience as a student yourself, as a child yourself, will help you to make sure you don't repeat those mistakes and that you don't make children feel the way that those teachers made you feel. And I think that's really, really important. As we evolve and reflect on our own practice, we also need to reflect on the experiences that we've had ourselves. So I hope you enjoyed or found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, as it really helps out the channel. Let me know your worst teacher stories in the comments below. No names, please. Don't forget to click that subscribe button to join the Little Learners family, and check out my video about the best teachers I've ever had, which I'm really looking forward to filming and might do right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.